Remember the sitcom Desperation playbook? First comes the clip show, then a dream sequence, maybe even a little amnesia. But when the laugh track is doing CPR on a dying show, there's always one last Hail Mary. Bring in a cute kid and hope for a miracle. That last-ditch effort is called Cousin Oliver Syndrome, and it's guided the path of curtain calls for more sitcoms than bad writing ever did. Today we're counting down 7 characters that signaled a show's expiration date. Some were harmless, and others were total sitcom kryptonite. Be sure to like and subscribe, because it really helps the channel grow. Nikki and Alex Katsopoulos' Full House was the comfort food of 90s TV. It was sappy, safe, and sweet enough to give your VCR cavities. It followed widowed dad Danny Tanner, raising 3 daughters with help from his Elvis-obsessed brother-in-law Jesse, and cartoon-voiced best friend Joey, played by Bob Saget, John Stamos, and Dave Coulier, respectively. The show, which ran from 1987 to 1995, was powered by Danny's life lessons, Joey's Cut It Out, and Uncle Jesse's amazing hair. Seriously, we're all still a little jealous of that hair, and the fact that he still has it. That chaps my gear. Then there was Michelle, Mary-Kate, and Ashley Olsen's shared role turned cultural juggernaut. When she looked up at Uncle Jesse and said, "You got it, dude," it was sitcom gold. The pint-sized scene stealer became the breakout star of the show, commanding storylines and delivering catchphrases that became part of the cultural lexicon. But by the end of season 4, Michelle couldn't carry the cuteness quota alone. She was getting older, and in TV land, that's a crisis. So, what did the writers do? They gave Jesse a wedding, a baby arc, and then, just to be safe, twins. Enter Nikki and Alex, 2 blonde mop tops in matching leather jackets who existed solely to cause chaos in stereo. They weren't characters. They were props with punchlines and identical bowl cuts. Uncle Jesse, now a dad, was juggling diapers and demos. One minute he's leading Jesse and the Rippers, and the next he's wiping applesauce off his leather pants. The show tried to mine comedy from Jesse's transition to fatherhood, but it often felt forced. The twins' main personality trait was mischief together. They clung to each other like Velcro, regularly overpowering Uncle Jesse, who just wanted to comb his hair in peace. Becky, played by Lori Loughlin, had to step in before they turned the attic into a jungle gym. The cuteness didn't quite stick. The twins weren't the saving grace the network hoped for. They were more like background static with matching outfits. What makes the twins interesting from a production standpoint is how they represented ABC's growing desperation to keep the Full House machine running. The network knew Michelle was aging out of maximum cuteness, and rather than let the show evolve naturally, they hit the reset button with infant twins. It was the TV equivalent of trying to recapture lightning in a bottle, except this time there were 2 bottles, and neither had much lightning in them. In real life, the actors faded from the spotlight after Full House ended. Dylan Twomey Will Hoyt became a Foley artist, working behind the scenes on shows like Masters of the Air, while Blake Twomey Will Hoyt became a firefighter, trading Hollywood for a more heroic career. Both of them briefly returned for Fuller House, bringing just as much chaos as college brothers as they did as toddlers. The Netflix revival proved that some things never change, including the Katsopoulos twins' ability to turn any scene into controlled mayhem. Nikki and Alex didn't tank Full House, but when twins in matching overalls show up mid-series, you know the writers are out of gas and digging through the diaper bag for plot. They're the sitcom equivalent of a flashing warning light that says, "Creative bankruptcy ahead." Luke Brower, Growing Pains. Now we've talked about babies and young kids, but what happens when a sitcom tries to reboot its heart with a brooding teen? Growing Pains gave it a shot, and the results were fascinating for all the wrong reasons. The show followed the Seavers, a Long Island family led by psychiatrist dad Jason, played by Alan Thicke, and journalist mom Maggie, played by Joanna Kearns. Their kids included responsible Carol, the bookworm overachiever, mischievous Ben, played by Jeremy Miller, and teen heartthrob Mike Seaver, played by Kirk Cameron. It ran from 1985 to 1992, balancing family drama with goofy humor, hair gel, and more than one episode about Mike cheating on tests or trying to impress girls. The show was a ratings hit for ABC, consistently landing in the top 20 throughout most of its run. It perfectly captured the essence of 80s family sitcoms. Wholesome lessons wrapped in jokes and delivered with just enough sincerity to make you feel good about watching. But all good things must end, and by the time the show reached its final season, the magic was clearly fading. In its final season, Growing Pains went full Hail Mary with Luke Brower, a scruffy street-smart teen in Mike's class who turns out to be homeless and winds up moving in with the Seavers. He wasn't a baby with catchphrases, but he still hit every Cousin Oliver note. Late addition, tragic backstory, and big, let's shake things up before we get canceled energy. The character was introduced as a way to inject new life into a show that had exhausted most of its natural storylines. Luke was played by none other than a young Leonardo DiCaprio, back when he was just a floppy-haired up-and-comer, not a yacht-hopping Oscar winner. But here's the twist. Leo actually crushed it. His performance was raw, grounded, and surprisingly heavy for a show that once built entire episodes around Mike trying to pass math. DiCaprio brought a level of dramatic intensity that the show hadn't seen before, tackling homelessness and family dysfunction with a maturity that felt almost out of place. But even great acting couldn't change the obvious. Luke's arrival wasn't organic. It was network panic. The show was aging out of its teen idol prime, and Kirk Cameron was looking less Tiger Beat and more youth pastor. His religious conversion during the show's run had already caused behind-the-scenes tension, and the producers needed something, anything, to make viewers care again. Luke wasn't dropping punchlines. He was unpacking trauma in the middle of a laugh track. And while the performance earned praise, it also made the show feel like it didn't know what it wanted to be anymore. Was it a family sitcom or a drama about social issues? The tonal whiplash was real. One episode you'd have Ben pulling pranks, and the next you'd have Luke dealing with the psychological scars of living on the streets. It was like watching two different shows fighting for control of the same time slot. Critics noticed too, with many pointing out that Luke's storylines felt imported from a completely different series. Oh, and that brooding teen with the bad haircut? Leo DiCaprio left sitcoms behind, starred in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, This Boy's Life with Robert De Niro, The Basketball Diaries, Romeo plus Juliet, Inception, and a little movie called Titanic. Ever hear of it? He also launched an environmental foundation and became one of the most bankable actors on the planet, commanding $20 million or more per film. Just a small little glow-up. Luke didn't save Growing Pains, but Leo? Nah. He's doing just fine. In fact, he's probably grateful the show ended when it did, freeing him up to pursue the film career that would make him a legend. Billy, Who's the Boss? By 1992, Who's the Boss was trying to answer a different question. How do we keep this show going when all the original storylines are cooked? Let's rewind. Who's the Boss ran for 8 seasons on ABC and was one of the defining sitcoms of the late 80s. The show followed Tony Micheli, a retired baseball player turned housekeeper played by Tony Danza. He moves from Brooklyn to Connecticut with his daughter Samantha, played by Alyssa Milano, to work for Angela Bauer, played by Judith Light, a high-powered ad exec who needs help managing her household and career. Also in the mix was Angela's quirky mom, Mona, played to perfection by Katherine Helmond, and her son Jonathan, played by Danny Pintaro. Mona was the scene stealer, delivering one-liners with impeccable timing and serving as the show's comedic MVP. It was a workplace sitcom, a romantic slow burn, and a family comedy all rolled into one. And for most of its run, it worked thanks to strong chemistry, likable characters, and just the right balance of sincerity and slapstick. The will they won't they dynamic between Tony and Angela kept viewers tuning in week after week. It was one of TV's great romantic teases, right up there with Sam and Diane on Cheers. But by season 8, things were starting to feel stale. The romance had been stretched to its breaking point, and audiences were getting impatient. So, what did the writers do? That's right, time to add a kid. Enter Billy, Tony's young cousin from Brooklyn, played by 5-year-old Jonathan Halyokar. His backstory? Classic sitcom logic. His parents split up, his grandmother gets sick, and he needs a place to stay. Well, Tony steps in as the grandmother's responsible former neighbor. And, yep, you heard that correctly. It's the early 90s. What did you expect? The show didn't even try to hide the convenience of the setup. Of course, if you've been following Remember When for a while, we talked about Billy in a previous episode about disappearing characters. If not, Check that video out after this one for even more nostalgia. Alright, now back to Billy. Billy actually wasn't a bad addition. Halialkar had that natural kid charm that casting directors dream about, and his Brooklyn accent paired nicely with Tony's. Plus, he had the kind of TV-ready bowl cut that screamed early 90s network note. The kid could deliver a line and hit his marks. But his arrival checked every Cousin Oliver box. Late series character, high cute factor, unnecessary to the plot, and a giant neon sign that said, "We don't know what else to do." To be fair, the show was already on its way out anyway. The Tony and Angela romance had been dragged out longer than any will they won't they should. Samantha was married and essentially written out of most episodes. Jonathan had stopped being precocious and started being irrelevant. And Mona was still a queen, but even she couldn't hold the plot together on her own. Billy didn't ruin Who's the Boss, but he definitely showed up to help roll the credits just in time for cancellation. He was the exclamation point on a sentence that had already run too long. Ricky Stevens, The Partridge Family. The Partridge Family, which aired from 1970 to 74, gave us the groovy musical misadventures of a widowed mom and her 5 kids spreading love, harmonies, and aggressively catchy earworms from a psychedelic school bus. Shirley Partridge, played by Shirley Jones, led her brood, Keith, Lori, Danny, Chris, and Tracy, through various adventures as a traveling rock band. It was basically the Brady Bunch with a tambourine, and for a while, America couldn't get enough. The show spawned hit records, merchandise, and turned David Cassidy into a teen idol of epic proportions. But by season 4, the wheels were coming off the bus. The show had been moved to Saturday nights opposite All in the Family and Emergency, and the ratings tanked hard. Going up against Norman Lear's groundbreaking sitcom was a death sentence for most shows, and The Partridge Family was no exception. Time for the classic sitcom, Hail Mary. Add a cute kid and hope for a miracle. Here comes Ricky Stevens, the 4-year-old neighbor who just happened to love singing, smiling, and stealing entire episodes from the actual Partridge Kids. Played by real-life cherub Ricky Siegel, he appeared in 10 episodes and even landed a record deal. Ricky Siegel and the Siegels hit shelves in 1973 and quietly slid into discount bins everywhere. The album was a transparent cash grab, trying to capitalize on the show's fading popularity by creating a junior version of the Partridge Family sound. He was supposed to bring fresh energy. Instead, he turned the tour bus into a slow-motion crash. Critics were brutal. One reportedly called him a festering harbinger of a Partridge apocalypse. Yikes, kid's 4 years old. The problem wasn't Ricky's performance. He was fine for a preschooler. The problem was that his presence screamed desperation.
Viewers could tell the producers were grasping at straws, trying to recapture the magic of the show's early seasons by adding a miniature version of what had worked before. The show was canceled at the end of the season, and Ricky Stevens was immortalized as one of TV's most awkward late-game additions. His brief tenure on The Partridge Family became a cautionary tale in Hollywood about what not to do when your show was struggling. Don't add a random cute kid and expect audiences to forget that your original stars are getting older and the storylines are getting thinner. To his credit, Ricky Siegel kept working after The Partridge Family ended. He did voice work on Richie Rich and Shirt Tales, showing that he had actual talent beyond just being adorable. And somehow he ended up co-hosting the 1974 American Music Awards alongside Donny Osmond, Michael Jackson, and Rodney Allen Rippey. That is a lineup for the history books. Imagine turning on your TVs and seeing a 4-year-old sharing hosting duties with the king of pop, only in the 70s. Ricky Siegel didn't kill the Partridge Family, but he was definitely there for the final chorus. He remains a footnote in TV history, a symbol of what happens when networks try to artificially extend a show's lifespan past its natural expiration date. Sam McKinney, Diff'rent Strokes. Diff'rent Strokes was the show that asked, what if a wealthy white guy adopted 2 black kids from Harlem and America loved it? Well, surprisingly, we did for 8 seasons. From 1978 to 86, we followed Arnold and Willis Jackson adjusting to penthouse life with Philip Drummond, a man who took his housekeeper's dying wish way more seriously than most bosses would. The show tackles serious issues like racism, drug abuse, and child molestation, while still maintaining its sitcom format. And of course, it gave us one of TV's most enduring catchphrases,
What you talking about, Willis? Gary Coleman's Arnold became a cultural phenomenon. His precocious delivery and impeccable comic timing made him one of the most recognizable faces on television. But by season 6, the magic was evaporating. Kimberly, played by Dana Plato, had been shipped off to Paris in a storyline that conveniently wrote her out of most episodes. Willis was barely around, with Todd Bridges getting reduced screen time. And Arnold, well, he wasn't so little anymore. Gary Coleman was growing up, and with him went that signature pint-sized charm. The cuteness meter was dangerously low, and in sitcom land, that's a 5-alarm fire. Enter the emergency backup plan. Sam McKinney, played by Danny Cooksey, a freckled little wisecracker with a southern drawl, red hair, and a punchline quota to fill. His mom, Maggie, played by Dixie Carter, and later Marianne Mobley, married Mr. Drummond in the show's 6th season, and suddenly the family had a new kid who was cuter, younger, and came with a pre-installed laugh track. The setup was transparent, a desperate attempt to inject new life into a show that was clearly running out of steam. The problem wasn't Danny Cooksey. The kid had charm and timing. He could hold his own in scenes and delivered his lines with confidence. The real problem? The show was already running on fumes. The writers clearly thought they could bottle the same magic twice. But lightning rarely strikes the same luxury apartment twice. Audiences weren't fooled. They'd invested years in the Jackson Boys story, and Sam felt like an intruder, a network-mandated addition, rather than an organic evolution of the family dynamic. The show limped through 2 more awkward seasons before the network pulled the plug in 1986. By that point, Diff'rent Strokes had become a shadow of its former self, with storylines that felt recycled and performances that lacked the energy of earlier seasons. Sam didn't kill Diff'rent Strokes, but he was the adorable red flag that the end was near. His arrival signaled that the creative team had run out of ideas and was falling back on the oldest trick in the sitcom playbook. Danny Cooksey bounced back just fine, though, becoming a voice-acting staple with Montana Max and Tiny Toon Adventures, and Jack Spicer in Challenge Showdown. His voice work proved he had genuine talent and versatility. He also fronted multiple bands, including Bad for Good and Arbuckle, showing a musical side that Diff'rent Strokes never explored. Because apparently surviving a late-stage sitcom role unlocks a bonus level in life. Cooksey's post-Diff'rent Strokes career demonstrates that being part of Cousin Oliver syndrome doesn't have to define an actor's legacy. All right, we're past the halfway point, so now it's your turn. Drop a comment and tell us which of these late arrival characters you actually remember showing up. And hey, if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe before another surprise kid shows up in your favorite show and starts calling everyone Uncle. We promise we won't add any random children to our channel without warning you first. 7. Married with Children. Look, we know we talked about 7 in a previous video also, but when you're making a list of sitcom kids who were supposed to save shows and did the opposite, how do you not include him? If Cousin Oliver syndrome had a mascot, it would be this kid. 7 represents the absolute peak of desperate network interference. The moment when executives decided that what America's most cynical sitcom needed was a dose of cuteness. In season 7, Married with Children was starting to feel worn, let's say. The network wanted to soften things up, so the Bombasiste tried to make Al nicer and ordered up a 6-year-old because nothing says fresh start like a random child dropped off by hillbilly relatives. The show had built its reputation on being the anti-sitcom, the show that rejected traditional family values and embraced dysfunction. And then Fox decided it needed to be more family-friendly. It was like asking punk rock to put on a sweater vest. Enter 7, the son of Peggy's cousins who were played for maximum chaos by Bobcat Goldthwait and Linda Blair, who I was really expecting to have her head spin again, but I didn't have any luck. Seeing the star of The Exorcist show up on Married with Children was surreal enough, but then she just dropped off a kid and disappeared, which feels very on brand for her character work. Anyway, they dump 7 on the Bundys and disappear, leaving Al to suffer louder than usual. Played by Shane Sweet, 7 was supposed to bring new life to the show. The network genuinely believed that adding an innocent child would broaden the show's appeal and help it reach a wider audience. Instead, he felt like a misplaced character from a canceled TGIF lineup. He didn't fit the tone, the family, or the fans' patience. Married with Children viewers weren't tuning in for heartwarming family moments. They were watching to see Al Bundy complain about his life and score 4 touchdowns in a single game. And just like that, he was gone. No goodbye, no big exit episode, just quietly erased from existence. The producers realized their mistake quickly and course-corrected in the most Married with Children way possible. He pops up in season 8 on a milk carton labeled missing. That's how committed the writers were to pretending he never happened. This might be the only time a show actually acknowledged a character's mysterious disappearance with a joke about child endangerment. It was a meta-commentary on their own terrible decision, turning a mistake into comedy gold. Ironically, dropping 7 might have actually saved the show. Once the writers gave up on cute kid course correction and let the Bundys go back to being terrible people, Married with Children found its rhythm again. It ran for 4 more seasons without the kid, proving that sometimes the best way to fix a problem is to simply pretend it never existed. The show returned to its cynical roots, and fans rewarded it with loyalty. Shane Sweet actually did just fine, though. He starred in Nickelodeon's The Journey of Alan Strange, popped up on Figure It Out, and even voiced Robin in the DC animated universe. Not bad for someone who got deleted from sitcom continuity mid-season. Sweet's career proves that being part of one of TV's biggest mistakes doesn't have to be a career killer. So, no, 7 didn't save the show, but leaving him behind, that just might have done the trick. Sometimes the best creative decision is admitting you made a mistake and moving on. Cousin Oliver, the Brady Bunch. And here we are, the kid who started it all. Cousin Oliver, the name that launched 1,000 desperate casting decisions. The Brady Bunch, which ran from 1969 to 74, followed the cheerful chaos of a blended family with 6 kids, 2 parents, 1 housekeeper, and 0 privacy. It was wholesome, structured, and powered by matching outfits and moral lessons that wrapped up in under 30 minutes. The show became a cultural touchstone, representing an idealized version of American family life that never really existed, but everyone wanted to believe in. Created by Sherwood Schwartz, who also gave us Gilligan's Island, The Brady Bunch was comfort television at its finest. Carol and Mike Brady, played by Florence Henderson and Robert Reed, navigated the challenges of blending 2 families with patience, wisdom, and an endless supply of polyester. The 6 kids, Greg, Marcia, Peter, Jan, Bobby, and Cindy, provided endless storylines about sibling rivalry, first crushes, and growing pains. Alice the housekeeper, played by Ann B. Davis, kept everything running smoothly with her homespun wisdom and suspicious amount of free time. Cousin Oliver showed up in the final 6 episodes of the Brady Bunch's 5th and final season to, and I'm doing air quotes here, add new life to a show everyone knew was gasping for air. It was 1974. The Brady kids weren't little anymore. Greg was thinking about college. Marcia was dating. Even little Bobby and Cindy were growing up. The charm was fading, and the producers decided the only salvation was another kid. It was a classic case of network executives looking at ratings and deciding that what worked once would work again. His backstory? Vaguely explained. He was Carol's nephew. How exactly? Nobody knows. His parents ditched him to go dig up ruins in South America, which is totally normal. Apparently, archaeological digs in the mid-70s required abandoning your child with relatives for an indefinite period. The show didn't even try to make the setup believable. Played by Robbie Rist, Oliver was upbeat, accident-prone, and aggressively wholesome, like handing out juice boxes at a biker bar. Wholesome. He had a catchphrase about being jinxed because apparently one quirky trait was enough to build a character around. So, what was the problem with Cousin Oliver? Well, everyone could smell the desperation. The Brady Bunch wasn't evolving, it was backpedaling. The show had naturally progressed through 5 seasons of family growth, and suddenly it hit the reset button with a younger kid who could deliver the cutesy storylines the older kids had outgrown. Viewers weren't buying it. They'd watched the Brady kids grow up, and Oliver felt like an insult to that journey. The show was canceled after his brief stint, and TV history was made. From that point on, any awkward late-season edition designed to boost ratings got slapped with the label Cousin Oliver Syndrome. The term entered the television lexicon, used by critics, fans, and industry insiders to describe that moment when a show jumps the shark by adding a cute kid. Oliver became more famous for what he represented than for anything he actually did on the show. despite the punchline reputation, Robbie Rist bounced back just fine. He kept working steadily with roles on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Grady, Galactica 1980, and extensive voice work for Doc McStuffins, Balto, and Naruto. If Michelangelo was your favorite Ninja Turtle in the 90s live-action movies, well, that was Cousin Oliver bringing the party dude's energy. Rist also became a successful musician and producer, working with artists across multiple genres. Turns out Cousin Oliver might have helped sink the Brady Bunch, but Robbie Rist is still standing and making noise. Literally, he's had a long and successful career in entertainment, proving that being part of TV history, even as a cautionary tale, isn't the worst thing in the world. In interviews, Rist has spoken about his time on the Brady Bunch with humor and perspective, understanding his place in television history while not letting it define his entire career. So, there you have it. 7 characters who failed to save fading shows, but became legendary for all the wrong reasons. We remember these characters precisely because they were so obviously desperate attempts by the networks to keep their cash cows going. Each one represents a moment when creativity gave way to panic, when executives thought they could trick audiences into caring about a show that had run its natural course. What's fascinating is how predictable the pattern became. Show hits its peak, ratings start to slip, producers panic, and suddenly there's a cute kid living in the house with a tragic backstory and a bowl cut. It's like watching the same car crash in slow motion over and over again, except each time the driver insists they've figured out how to avoid the wall. Spoiler alert, they never do. These characters became symbols of everything wrong with network interference. Instead of letting shows end gracefully or evolve naturally, executives kept throwing adorable children at the problem like they were fighting a fire with gasoline. And audiences noticed every single time. We weren't fooled then, and we're certainly not fooled now when we look back at these obvious Hail Marys. Did we miss a painfully obvious Cousin Oliver? Drop it in the comments and let us know below. Was there a cute kid added to your favorite show that made you want to throw your remote at the TV? We want to hear about it. Which one of these characters do you think was the most shameless attempt to save a dying show? And if you want more retro TV breakdowns, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next trip down memory lane. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.